In the papers, so much of the, so many of the articles are, if somebody's been sponsored by the cruise or they've been sponsored by the tourist board or something, and they just write very much the main things. And I think there's a market for writing sort of something. I got a piece coming out in the Australian on Saturday on Lidos of London, and I went and swam in all the Lidos. And so yes, it's just a bit different, and I think that people. But it's something they can do, but it's something it's also a bit quirky. Also doing, I think one of the things that, if you're a gardener and you go to England, then you'll go and see a lot of beautiful gardens, and that gives you a whole insight that makes you not a tourist, perhaps, because you've got an interest. And I think that's quite. That sort of travel is a bit different, but you're also not totally on your own or whatever, or you've got to focus. Travel, the most amazing thing is that you suddenly see all these new things, and you're instantly in the moment, and you're captivated, and you can sit in a street, in a place, and you watch everybody go past, and you look at the signposts, and everything is extraordinary, and that's what's amazing about travel. It really brings you into the present moment, I suppose, and it makes you look at things with new eyes. And when you're in a familiar place, then you don't notice things. So I think that's the experience that we look for, really. And it's always that balance also too with travel. With travel, you're on the road to freedom, but we also want to belong. So it's that balance between belonging and staying put, and going out and travelling and being free, and finding that balance. There's certainly been a great interest in doing pilgrimages, for instance. I mean, the Camino de Santiago, which is the pilgrimage which goes through France and then across northern Spain to Santiago de Compostela in Galicia, in the west of Spain, is phenomenally popular now. And I cycled with my cousin along that route about 20 years ago, and there was really nobody on it, and we used to arrive in the refugios, which are the refuges, and we'd be the only people there often. And then sometimes there'd be a few more people, but not a lot. I mean, now people are getting up at 6 a.m. in the morning so they can get a bed in the next town that evening. I think that then that's very different to going to lying on a beach for a week. I think it's that thing that people want to be restored in something. And I think probably what we're getting away from when we go away, we're getting away from, the mobile, the email, the blog, the Facebook, and giving ourselves some time out. So perhaps we want to be nourished, and certainly when I walked St Declan's Way, that's what it did. It made me come back to the present moment, and it made me also realise the joy of just such small things like seeing wildflowers, or walking through the heather, coming to a beach wood, seeing an oak tree, and it was quite simple, coming to a river. And in everyday life, you often don't have time. People are so busy that they might live in Sydney, but they might not have time to go for a swim or walk along the beach. And ideally, I suppose, we want our lives to be in balance and to be able to do something every day that brings us back to that, and also connects us with nature, because that's where we come from. I mean, we're part of this earth, and particularly as urban people, we can get quite disconnected from that. But we need to reconnect, I think, with that. That was the amazing thing about walking St Declan's Way. When you walk, your feet are on the ground and you're getting yourself from A to B, which can mean blisters at times, but it's also really connecting. I felt an outsider. One of the times I felt an outsider was when I went to the Mellery Grotto, and the statue there, which sits up on the hillside, and it's this white statue of the Virgin Mary, and in 1985 that was seen to move for 10 days, and masses of people crowded into this little grotto, up the mountain, up the Knockmeal-Down mountains, and two boys could see the statue moving and also hear her speaking, and they conveyed the messages to all the other people that had gathered. And I've been to Mount Mellery before, and it's in a very beautiful setting. But I suppose what made me feel an outsider was it felt quite Catholic, and I suppose not having been brought up in the Catholic Church, I don't understand it. I'm not quite sure how it works, so that makes me feel a bit nervous. So I was happy to visit it, but for me it wouldn't have been a very special place. I think other special places were actually going to St Declan's Well in Ardmore, and that's very old. That's really before the sort of great divide between Catholics and Protestants, and it was an old well, and I drank from the water, and I felt it went beyond any differences in religion. And that's not that I think there's a huge difference between Catholicism and the Church of Ireland, but fundamentally it's the same thing, and it doesn't particularly worry me. I don't, but somehow when you see it like that, you think, gosh, I don't believe in that way. And I think that's probably true. I'm part of I suppose I'm part of what's called the Art of Living, which is a yoga-based organisation. And often I look at the devotion of some of those people, and I think I don't have that in me. But what I do recognise is that I do have a devotion that's just a bit different, and we are all different. So I suppose if you see somebody more extreme, or you see something more extreme, you think, gosh, I'm not that. But also sometimes seeing that takes you a bit further along the path, and perhaps makes you think, no, I'm not that, but I am devoted as far as, I go this far along the line too. I